You're going live, okay.
Going live in 3.
Om. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnana Timirandhasya, Jnana Anjana Shalakaya, Chakshurunmilidam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tumeva Mada Chapida Tvameva, Tumeva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tumeva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva, Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma, Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma, Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma. Om Amriteshwari Nama. We'll begin with a short meditation. Kindly sit straight and make sure your vertebral column, your spinal column is erect. Slowly close your eyes. Try to concentrate your awareness on your breathing. Breathing normally but with full awareness of each and every inhalation and exhalation that occurs through your body. Just be a silent witness. As you keep watching your breath, you'll also slowly start relaxing and feel the relaxation. Now we'll chant Om 3 times. As we chant Om, imagine the sound of Om to arise from a navel area and visualize the sound traveling upwards, cleansing your body, your mind, and the atmosphere around you. Now take a deep breath. Now feel the vibrations of Om in each and every part of your body. Now as you breathe in, chant the mantra Ma silently, along with your in-breath, focusing on your breath. And then when you breathe out, chant Om. Ma when you breathe in, and Om when you breathe out. Ma is a representation of divine love, and Om of divine light. You need not focus on love and light or visualizing them. Just feel the vibrations of love and light filling your heart. Now as you breathe in Ma, hold your breath for a few seconds, don't hold it too long. And breathe out Om, chanting Om. And while you pause and hold your breath, feel the depth of silence going more and more deeper, and the bliss that arises from that. And continue like this for some time. Ma. Om. Ma. Om. Slowly and slowly the reverberations of Ma and Om become more and more subtle, and instead of the physical sound of Ma and Om, just feel the vibrations. And now feel your heart expanding, just like a bud that blossoms into a beautiful flower. Feel the love and the light filling your heart and making your heart expand as big as this universe. And feel the joy, the bliss. Imagine a ray of light emerging from your heart, going out to all the beings in this world, just like the rays of the sun. And as the light falls on each and every one of them, imagine they also become more loving, more peaceful, more blissful, and more content and compassionate. And while imagining so, let's chant the Loka Samasta prayer 9 times. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Dhyayamo Dhavlavagundhanavatim Tejo Mayim Nashtikim Snigdha Pangavilokinim Bhagavadim Mandasmidashri Mukhim Valsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shamangim Madhusikta Suktim Amridanandatmikam Ishwarim Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyandam Vande Guru Parambaram Sruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Bhadarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritav Vande Bhagavantav Punapunaha Ishwarau Guru Ragmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha. In the last session, we were seeing how the Amrita, the nectar, came out from the hands of Dhanvantari Murti, who is a partial avatar of Lord Krishna, who carried the nectar, the Amrita, in his hands. And what happened was the Asuras, when they saw that, they immediately went and snatched it and from him, and then they wanted to drink the nectar, the Amrita. But the question was who was going to go first. So they started fighting amongst themselves. So here we have to understand a couple of things here. Even if you are given the best of best things, amongst the people who are negative, they can't enjoy it because why? They are being very selfish. And they want to keep the whole thing for themselves. They don't want to share it with others. So as a result of which, they can't enjoy it. Whereas in the case of Devas, what happened was it was shared amongst them. And so everybody enjoyed it, whereas the Asuras, nobody could enjoy it as they were fighting as to who should go first and who should not go first. As I was sharing a story last time, God gave a test, that is Mahavishnu gave a test to the Asuras and the Devas, and they were asked to sit and they were being served a feast by both to the both parties, Devas and Asuras. But one thing they were asked was, they were also given a big spoon, and they were asked that they should eat without bending their hands. So imagine you cannot bend your hands, you have to keep it straight. And how will it go inside your mouth, right? So they kept on struggling, and finally they could not eat. Whereas what happened to the Devas, they took the food on the spoon and fed the next person to sitting to him. And the person next to him fed him. So everybody ate, whereas the Asuras did not. So this is the tendency of selfish people, that we want to keep everything for ourselves. So finally, they do not get what they want also. And the other thing that I remembered, or I wanted to say was, I was talking to you about the allegory, about the Asuras and the demons. There's always whenever you take, there is a fight between the Asuras and the Devas. Why? Because as I said earlier, this is the Milky Ocean is a representative of our mind. And in our mind, there is always a tug of war between the good and the bad. And now some people will ask, why should there be a bad thought or a negative thought? Why can't it be all positive thoughts? Why did God create negative thoughts? Right? It could have been all positive thoughts. So just a couple of things that I was mulling over was, number one, as you see, a negative thought has more energy than a positive thought. You tell somebody, oh, you look so beautiful. Oh, they'll say, okay, thank you. But so you tell somebody you look so ugly, you look like a witch, they will remember their whole life. They will never forget it. And why? Because it's very, very forceful. And so that is the effect of the negative thought. So negative thought has so much energy than positive thought. So of course, it's, as Amma says, words are like fire. So you have to use it very carefully. And the second thing is, what I was thinking was, if negative thoughts were not present, how would we have been aware of all the thoughts arising in our mind? It is because of the negative thoughts that at least once in a while, suddenly we realize, oh my God, I'm having negative thoughts. You never say, I'm having positive thoughts. So when the negative thoughts arise, that's when you realize that you are having thoughts in your mind. And you should control those thoughts. So that's the next step. If it was positive thought, why should you control? Let it come out. It's positive, so what? So that's what you will think. But when it is negative thought, then only you'll have that awareness to observe it and then eliminate it. Of course, as I said, in the end, you have to eliminate the positive thoughts also, because whether the chain is made of rusty iron or it's made of gold, a chain is a chain. So you have to go beyond both. So, but to start with, you have to have the negative thought. Because, as I said, it brings the light of awareness, without which we would not have been thinking about eliminating these thoughts from our mind. And third thing, as I was saying, is, since the negative thoughts have more energy than the positive thoughts, first of all, it's very difficult to tame them. Because as you can feel, as you can understand, when there is a positive thought, it's very easy to control it. But when a negative thought arises, however hard you try, you can jump up and down or kick yourself, kill yourself, the thought is not going to go away. And so what happens? So what if you tame that thought? What if you can channel the direction of that thought? Would it be more powerful than the positive thoughts? So these are all a few things which I thought about, why we should have negative thoughts. And without, of course, without the negative thoughts also, there is no plurality. There is only, when there is only goodness in the world, this world is made of opposite pairs, right? Good and bad, heat and cold, tall and short, all these things, big and large, small. So like that. So without that also, the world does not exist. So that's also part of that. And ultimately, what happens is, when we think about negative thoughts, when we conquer them and when we go beyond that, then we understand that we have to conquer positive thoughts also. We have to go a place where there is no thought and absolutely the mind becomes thoughtless. So that's the most restful state where we can reach. So in fact, that's why I'm saying negative thoughts are actually helping us to go to the source. So that's one of the good things about negative thoughts. And so don't be sad that you're having negative thoughts. As the war between the good and the bad is always happening in the realm of our mind, these thoughts will always be there. So one day or the other, we have to conquer both and we have to go beyond. So here what happened is, as I said, when the Asuras got the Amrita, the nectar, even the nectar, they could not enjoy it. Why? They were very selfish. So that's also one of the things that when you talk about how to reach realization, you have to be utterly selfless. You cannot be selfish. And to reach to that end, even if you have an iota of selfishness, what does selfishness mean? It means I and mine. It's your ego. So you don't eliminate that ego, then you will never be able to drink the nectar, Amrita, which will make you immortal. So the immortality that is realization, is represented by this nectar, Amrita here. So what happened was, as they were standing there and fighting with one another, the Asuras were fighting with one another, the all-powerful Mahavishnu, who was a master of the art of devising means for achieving any end, however difficult, assumed the form of a woman so wonderful that it defies description. So it said that Lord Vishnu took the form of Mohini. Mohini means one who attracts everybody. So he took the form of a woman who was so beautiful. And I'm just editing a little bit because there are some descriptions which you don't want to hear and I don't want to say also. So her complexion was like the color of an extremely attractive blue lotus. Every limb of hers was handsome. Her ears with appropriate ornaments were exactly alike in formation. And she had shining cheeks and a high nose. Her breasts, indicative of her blooming youth, were well-rounded and proportionate, and her abdomen, in contrast, seemed very thin. The humming bees were attracted to her face by the fragrance of her breath, often made her eyes shrink in fear. Her luxuriant braids were decorated with blooming jasmine wreaths, while necklaces adorned her handsome neck and armlets her attractive arms. Her hips, extensive like an island, were draped with a silk cloth over which there was an encircling girdle of great brilliance, while well-fashioned anklets added to the beauty of the slow and attractive movements of her feet. And by her frequent glances, accompanied by the movements of the brows, caused by her bashful smile, she roused gusts of passion in the mind of the Asura leader. So here, they're talking about how a man became a woman. It's not it's not uncommon nowadays to see these things. Man becoming woman and woman becoming man. So we see that everywhere, but we end up in confusion. But here there was very clarity that she was a woman. And you can just imagine the form. It is said that great saints and yogis can assume any form. And some of these forms are really so attractive also. I remember when Amma took the Krishna Bhava, and she was a male, right? Krishna was a male. And she exuded that kind of an energy, but at the same time, in Krishna Baba, she was a totally different person. She was not like what she was during Devi Baba or what she was like in ordinary Baba. And in Krishna Baba, even her skin tone had changed, as you would sometimes note during Devi Baba. It became, you cannot describe it was dark, but it was dark blue in that sense. And her mannerisms also, it was more male than female. And as you see, the mannerisms in Devi Baba is more female and more motherly than what she does even during normal bhava. She's more, she exudes more compassion at that time. So she could just easily just change over to become a male. And here, that's what they're saying. Lord Vishnu became a female. And he became so attractive. And Mohini was the name. And while the Asuras, abandoning all ties of friendship and adopting the ways of robbers, were engaged in a mutual wrangle for wresting the vessel of Amrita, they saw the handsome maiden approaching them. Agitated by lust at her sight, the Asuras rushed towards her, exclaiming, what a beauty, what a complexion, what a blooming youth. So this is what happens to the negative mind, right? The negative mind is always attracted to the sense objects. So as soon as they saw, they started thinking, what a beautiful woman she is. And they addressed her saying, "O lotus-eyed beauty, tell us who you are. Whence did you come and why? Whose daughter are you? Your charm seems to churn our heart by excitement. And we know for certain that you are still a maiden, untouched by anyone from among the Devas, Asuras, Siddhas, Gandharvas, Charanas, all the world lords, not to speak of men. O girl of attractive eyes, is it that the merciful Creator has sent you here to enthrall the minds and senses of all beings? O slender-waisted beauty, all of us who are mutually related have now become bitter enemies because of a competition to get possession of a common object. Settle that quarrel and bring peace amongst us. We are all the descendants of Kashyapa, and therefore brothers. We have worked alike for churning the ocean and getting Amrita. Now be pleased to divide the Amrita among us in a way that would look just and avoid later disputes." So they entrust this. So that is what happens. When the sense organs are gone, your discrimination is gone. And you fall for that objects. So, that in Bhagavad Gita, that's what they say. When you start looking at it, then you start thinking about it, then you want to possess it. And when you want to possess it, then you desire for it, and finally you become a mad person. So you lose your discrimination. So they lost their discrimination here. And the one who has lost discrimination, Bhagavad Gita says, he will perish. So here what happened was the same thing. When they saw this woman who was so attractive, they completely lost their discrimination and started going after the woman. And on being thus requested, the Lord Hari, who had assumed this maiden's form, replied as follows, casting bewitching glances from the corners of her lovely eyes. And the Lord said, "O descendants of Kashyapa, how is it that you approach me putting so much trust in one who is but a harlot, soliciting men? Wise men never trust wanton women. It is said that no lasting relationship can be forged with a woman who are ever in quest of new sex experiences and with wolves that are ever hungry. So, Sri Shuka said, their faith in her being reinforced by these teasing words, the Asuras laughed as a token of their deep confidence in her and handed over the Amrita to her. So, this always happens for, at least for men, when they fall in love, they see only the beauty, they don't see the ugliness. And what happens? Then they think, oh, this woman is the highest, the most beautiful woman in this world, the most obedient and the most subservient and the most ideal for me, until they get married. So then the opinion starts changing. So what happens is here, similarly, when they met Mohini, they are all saying that this is, see, you're such a beautiful woman, why don't you do this? And so, but she is, in one sense, reprimanding them, and they don't want to listen to that. She's saying that you cannot trust a harlot, a prostitute, soliciting men. And wise men never trust wanton women. And it's also that, it's just like wolves. You cannot trust wolves that are hungry. So finally, they give the Amrita to her, not listening to her. And Hari received the vessel of Amrita and said with a smile, if you undertake to abide by my actions, irrespective of whether you consider them right or wrong, I shall agree to divide the Amrita among you. So what happened? He said, look, I will give the nectar, but you have to obey to all my commands. So, in the beginning, that's what happens. The men are so obedient. If the woman tells them to go and jump from a mountain, they will do that. But again, what happens? After some time, then they want the woman to jump out of the window. So without really realizing the implications, the Asuras agreed to the proposal of the charming maiden. And as preparation for the sacred act of taking Amrita, the Asuras fasted for a day. And next morning they performed their oblations in the fire, fed all living beings high and low, received the blessings of holy men, put on new dress and ornaments, and sat on seats of kusha grass, arranged with the blade tips directed eastward. So that's how you sit. You have to have the blade facing the east with the grass, the kusha grass, the mat made of kusha grass. So they performed fasting, they did all the ceremonies, then they fed the living beings, and then they got the blessings of the holy men, and finally they came and sat. So, when earlier, you remember, the gods and the demons are both the descendants of Kashyapa. Kashyapa is their father, and the mothers are different, Diti and Aditi. So that is how they came from. So that's why they are saying that we are the descendants of Kashyapa. And both the Asuras and the Devas sat facing eastward in readiness in a hall decorated with lights and flowers and rendered fragrant by burning incense. So now, O king, into that hall now entered that handsome woman holding the Amrita jar in her hand. A brilliant cloth of silk draped the lower part of her body. Her tread was slow, and her eyes unsteady as if under inebriation. And the sweet sounds of her tinkling anklets announced her slow movement. As the Devas and the Asuras smiled and looked carefully at that female form assumed by the deity to match Shri herself. They were stupefied with excitement to see her face illumined by ear ornaments and beautified by her handsome cheeks, ears, and nose and her torso. And so it will be as unwise a policy to give Amrita to and confirm immortality on the Asuras as on the cobras, who are both naturally cruel-hearted. So the Lord did not distribute the Amrita among these naturally depraved Asuras. So what happened? So they saw this woman who was coming in, but the Lord, did not serve Amrita to the demons. Why? Because as you were saying, it's like feeding the cobras. They will only bite one day or the other. So the Lord made different seating arrangements for the two parties and assigned to them seats in their respective rows. And in order to hoodwink the Asuras, the Lord moved about in the rows of Asuras with the Amrita vessel in hand and sweet words in his mouth, while he arranged to actually distribute that rejuvenating drink among the Devas who were sitting at a distance. So the Lord did not give the drink to the Amrita, to the nectar to the Asuras, but he just gave it only to the Devas. And so, but he was, also pretending as if he's walking around them, because they had their eyes closed and they could hear the anklets as she was passing by. So they were all thinking that she's serving the nectar, Amrita, to the Asuras also. Whereas the Lord was not serving, but only to the Devas. O king, there's one thing here. Why did the Lord give it to the Devas only? So they were the good people. And why he is saying that, the first thing he was saying that if you give it to the Asuras, then what will they do? They will only create more destruction in the world, whereas the Devas will help the world. And second thing, this is also an inner meaning. When you're saying about realization, realization can be had only by people who have a pure heart. It cannot have a person who has a negative heart or filled with negativities or vasanas cannot achieve realization. Because as I said earlier, first of all, people who are negative, they are selfish. And secondly, even if, as like what happens when you get realization, you achieve so much power. Whatever you want to do, you can fly. You get the Ashta Siddhis. They say that is a Mahima, Garima. So that is, you can become as big as you want, you can become as small as an atom. And then, there are 8 different Siddhis. So you get all the Siddhis. And you can appear in multiple places. And you can see here, even if like the demons get 1 or 2 Siddhis, they misuse it. If they can fly, they misuse it. They what they do is they try to kill the Devas with that Siddhi. So they are not using it for the benefit of the society. So that's why here, we have to say that Mahavishnu is giving the nectar only to the Devas, the good people. And so that's always in spirituality. They talk about this, right? The one person who is having the right not attitude, but having the standard or the eligibility to receive the knowledge. He should be eligible. And so what happens? So only if you are eligible to receive the knowledge, then only the Guru will transmit the knowledge. Otherwise, The Guru will not transmit the knowledge to everybody. So he, in fact, he has to become a recipient, a good recipient, so as to receive that knowledge. And so what happens is here, as I said, the Mahavishnu was giving the nectar only to the Devas. And say, O king, all the while the Asuras sat silently, honoring their agreement not to raise any dispute. Besides, their mind were fully taken up with the infatuation for the maiden, and they also disliked to get the opprobrium of quarreling with a woman. So, the Asuras were sitting with their eyes closed because they had agreed. And then when they had the eyes closed, what they were doing? They were not meditating. They were thinking about the woman all the time, the beauty of the woman. And they were thinking, first I will drink the nectar, then next thing is I will get the woman. So that's what their mind was. And their lustful attachment to her was so great, they were afraid to do anything that might cause a breach in their relationship. Their respect for her was also a restraining factor. So they remained silent without making any adverse remarks. So they were sitting there quietly, even though some of them may not have been served and may have had the knowledge that they were not being served. They were thinking, she's going to come later. But an Asura named Swarbhanu, is otherwise known as Rahu. So, in the astrology, we have the two nodal points, Rahu and Ketu, which are not planets. And so, went into the midst of the Devas, disguised as one of them, and drank a share of Amrita. But his identity was soon discovered and revealed by the sun and the moon deities between whom he had sat. At once, Hari cut off his head with his sharp discus. As the Amrita had gone only up to the neck above and not come into contact with the trunk, this lower portion of the body fell dead while the head remained immortal. So, what happened was one of the Asuras, they disguised themselves as a Deva and went and sat with the Deva. And what was his name? Swarbhanu, but is known as Rahu. And so he went there, and as soon as he was drinking, the people who was next to him was sun and moon. And immediately they found out, and they shouted to Mahavishnu saying that there is a demon here. So he was drinking Amrita. And so Mahavishnu sent his chakra, Sudarshana chakra, and cut off the head of Rahu. But because his head had already drunk Amrita, it became immortal. And that's why, when the eclipse happens, there is a story which is saying that the Rahu and Ketu is swallowing the sun and the moon. Why? Because the sun and the moon were the ones who told Mahavishnu and that they were there, that he was there. So the head, which has thus gained eternal life, was converted by the Lord into a planet. And Rahu, who entertains an antagonism to the moon and the sun deities for betraying him, assails them as eclipse on certain full moon and new moon days. So that's what how Rahu takes revenge on sun and moon. So after the Devas had finished drinking, the Amrita, the wonderful Lord, the protector of the worlds, assumed his real form in the view of the Asuras. So now he became Mahavishnu. He had changed his form from Mohini to Mahavishnu to the Asuras. In this way, though the Devas and the Daityas started on a common enterprise at the same time and place, with the same motive, plan and objective, they got divergent results in the end. The Devas getting the Amrita to consume and the Asuras nothing of it. By resignation to the Lord and devotion to Him, the Devas achieved this easily, but the Asuras failed in the final result because they had no reliance on Him. So here, this what I am reminded is, Amma always says this, you need 3 factors for any action to succeed. What is that? Number 1 is time. Second one is effort. Third one is grace. So he's talking about grace here. How do you get grace? One of the ways he's talking. So Devas and the Asuras started on the same enterprise. What? To get Amrita. But in the end, how did Devas achieve success? Why? Because they were surrendered to the Lord and they had devotion to Him, but the Asuras did not have. So that was why they failed getting the Amrita. And whatever service or sacrifice men perform in their life, wealth, work, mind, and words for the sake of themselves and their dear ones, all these will be in vain in the last resort, because all such efforts are directed toward entities separate from the divine. But all that becomes immensely fruitful if the service is done to Him or to others with the knowledge that those served are the Lord's manifestation. It's like pouring water at the root of a tree, which is equal to watering the whole tree. Watering the leaves and the branches have no purpose. So he's saying that when we put effort, how should we put effort? So this is being described here very beautifully. The Devas and the Asuras, they also put effort, and they were on the right time, and they sat when Lord Vishnu came, but the Asuras did not get nectar, whereas the Devas did. So why? The only difference was that their surrender to the Lord. They were completely surrendered. And similarly, in life, he's saying that, even if you put effort for the, other people, your whole family and everything, and for worldly achievements, finally everything will come to a naught. We saw this from the life of King Alexander, right? And he had put his hand out of his casket saying that I'm not taking anything. When finally death knocks on the door. And so what happens? Then you are not going to take anything from this world. And you are not, or none of your relationships are going to come with you. As the bhajan goes, this Chidakarigil Vidumbinilkum so Janangal, that is, they will, the relatives will be standing near your pyre and crying, but the moment, body is burnt, they will just go back and start eating, having a nice meal. And so, that's how much is the relationship's worth. But if you do not do just for the sake of, I'm not saying that you should not do that. You have your duty, you have your dharma. So you have to do dharma for your family. But if you are doing dharma just for your family, that's what he's saying. In the end, it will be only, you'll only have sadness. Because why? None of this will have any fruit, or you will not get any satisfaction by doing that. So what will bring you satisfaction? If you do something for the Lord, for the Guru. And what does that mean? And it doesn't mean that you go to the church or temple every day and go around and circumambulate. That's not going to bring you that solace. So, as Amma says, you go to the temple, Then when he came out of the temple, they kicked the beggar. And so that what we must here is mentioning, the sage Vyasa is mentioning here, is selfless actions. Only when you do selfless actions, that's what God wants us to do. When we do selfless actions, then only we will be able to have some kind of a meaning in our lives. I'll just end with my own personal story. When I moved to the ashram, first of all, I had so much of attachment to my parents, and I did not want to leave them alone, and that was a big, discussion that was going in my mind, a dilemma, whether I should leave my parents and go to the ashram. In that time, I did not even think about sannyas, but which later had to become. And the other thing was, when I'm going to the ashram, I knew that I would not have any kind of a relationship or attachment to them, and I would not be able to take care of them. So many a times, the Indian children, that's how they used to be, not now. Many of them are, I will say many of them are still now, but used to take care of their old parents, especially when they became old. They would take care of their parents. And the parents would live in their homes only. They would not take them to a old age home and just put them there and go away. But as I said, it's changing. But what happens is, even nowadays, is the children have become so cruel that they leave the parents go in a distant railway station or airport and just come back. And that's how they are doing that. But what happens is, so we can see that they used to take care of their parents. So their worry was, or at least my worry was, how will I take care of my parents when they become old? They had not become so old at that time. So, of course, I had asked Amma about this, and Amma said not to worry. And if you embark on this journey, God will take care of your family. And you don't have to worry about it. And she didn't say, I will take care of them. So, as with so much hesitancy, of course, I joined the ashram and still had a lot of attachment for them. But towards as life progressed, I became slowly became detached to them. But at the same time, I was concerned for them a little bit. Even though my brothers and sister was there, they were all living in foreign countries. They were not with my parents. And they were giving money to the people, caretakers, and the caretakers were taking care of my parents, and none of the siblings was there. And towards the end, my father passed. When my father passed away, what happened was, one of the best things that happened was, before he passed away, a few days before, he asked for Amma's picture. And he could not even get up from his bed, so he asked a picture to be put on the wall where he could see. And he used to look at the picture all the time, and he passed away in such a peaceful manner. And I was here, I could not go attend the funeral. And instead of me, many of the ashramites, including Purnamrita Swami, went and visited my father. So he did not feel any death of absence of people, of his children. And so, in fact, actually, my older brother or one of my brothers did not even go to see him, whereas all the people from the ashram went and saw him. And similarly, the case with my mother. In the end, my Amma asked her to come to the ashram. And she passed away in the ashram. And she was so fortunate to have that kind of a blessing in her life. What if I had not chosen that path? They would have died at home. And would they have a peaceful death? They would not have had such a peaceful death also. Especially my mother, because she had Alzheimer's. And people were not taking care of her. And she was so angry with all the caretakers. Finally, when she came to the ashram, then only she became so peaceful, because the people, the brahmacharini who was taking care of her was so loving. And so in the end, what happened was she died so peacefully. And one of the most favorite things for her was to hear bhajans. And that's what she was listening every day while she was in the ashram. The brahmacharini used to take her in the evening to listen to Amma's bhajans. And when she used to come back to her room, she would be humming the bhajans. So the transition was so smooth. And I will say that they would not have had such a beautiful ending without me going away to the ashram. So in effect, what happened? That decision, which was prompted by Amma and which Amma had predicted, came true. Why? Because when I moved to the ashram, it actually benefited them in so many ways, which I did not even think about. So here, that's what he's saying. So when we do actions that is intended for ourselves, which are selfish, or for the sake of your family, and or they're saying that some people, when you ask them, why are you accumulating so much wealth? Oh, I want to give it to my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. I mean, who knows? One day it can just go away. How are you sure or rest assured that it will go to your grandchildren or great-grandchildren? The government may take it, or you may lose the whole thing. So it can happen, anything can happen. So people are running after this mirage and saying that I'm building this castle in the air, and one day surely that castle will collapse. And that's when they realize, just like Alexander did, that everything they had done in their life was utterly meaningless. And that's why they say that most of the people, when they die, they have this regret. Why didn't I do something good? Why couldn't I have done something better? So it is said that some people even call their last, some people were asked what is their last wish. They want to call their worst enemy. They would call their worst enemy so as to ask for forgiveness. That is their wish. And many a times the enemy would not come there on time, so they pass away without asking for forgiveness, and still with that remorse that they could not come to terms with their worst enemy or worst adversary. So, whereas, you can see that from a spiritual point of view, how many people have moved to the ashram? Most of them have died so peacefully. As Amma says, even death is a festival there. And when people pass away, it is so beautiful also. Why? Because they are not concerned about anything else in the world. They are not concerned for their children, great-grandchildren. They are not concerned about money. They are not concerned about anything else. They have just surrendered to Amma. So truly, that's why saying, truly surrendering to the Master, the Guru, is the best way. So may Amma give us the right attitude to surrender to her and make our life more beautiful. Om Amriteshwari Namah. అమృతేశ్వరి వందనం జగదీశ్వరి వందనం పతితావని వందనం పరమేశ్వరి వందనం
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 చతురానన నందిని శరణాగత పాలిని భవభీతి విభంజిని ముని మానస రంజిని
చతురానన నందిని శరణాగత పాలిని భవభీతి విభంజిని ముని మానస రంజిని
అమ్మా 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 సాగరే కవితామృతదాయికే నిగమాగమవన్నిదే నిఖిలామయ పూజిదే
కరుణారస సాగరే కవితామృతదాయికే నిగమాగమవన్నిదే నిఖిలామర పూజితే
అమ్మా 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 హారిణి శరణాగతదాయిని ప్రతి జన్మ విమోచిని శృతి మంత్ర విహారిణి
సకలామయ హారిణి శరణాగత పాలిని ప్రతి జన్మ విమోచిని శృతి మంత్ర విహారిణి
దళలోచనే నయనామృత విగ్రహే మృదుమోహన సుస్మిదే జయదేవి నమోస్తుతే
దళలోచనే నయనామృత విగ్రహే మృదుమోహన సుస్మితే జయదేవి నమోస్తుతే
దళలోచనే నయనామృత విగ్రహే మృదుమోహన సుస్మిదే జయదేవి నమోస్తుతే
దళలోచనే నయనామృత విగ్రహే మోహన సుష్మితే జయదేవి నమోస్తుతే
అమృతేశ్వరి వందనం జగదీశ్వరి వందనం పతితావని వందనం పరమేశ్వరి వందనం
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 అమ్మా అమ్మా అమ్మా
అమ్మా అమ్మా అమ్మా అమ్మా
అమ్మా అమ్మా Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Pasangusadhara Gananatha
Pasankushadhara Gananatha
Pasangusadhara Gananatha
Pasankushadhara Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha
Pasangusadhara Gananatha
Pasankushadhara Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha
Pasupati Nandana Gananatha
Pashupati Nandana Gananatha
Pasupati Nandana Gananatha
Pashupati Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gajamukha Gajamukha Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Gauri Nandana Gananatha
Pasangusadhara Gananatha
Pasankushadhara Gananatha
Pasangusadhara Gananatha
Pasankushadhara Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha
Gananatha Gananatha गणनाथा
पाशाङ्कुशधर गणनाथा
गणनाथा है गणनाथा
गणनाथा हे 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 गणनाथा
पाशाङ्कुशधर गणनाथा
पाशाङ्कुशधर गणनाथा
गणनाथा है गणनाथा
गणनाथा हे गणनाथा
पशुपति नंदन गणनाथा
पशुपति नंदन गणनाथा
गौरी नंदन गणनाथा
गौरी नंदन गणनाथा
गौरी नंदन गणनाथा
गौरी नंदन गणनाथा
गजमुख गजमुख गणनाथा गौरी नंदन गणनाथा मधुराधिपते द्वारकाधिपते वैकुण्ठपते श्रीराधापदे मधुराधिपते द्वारकाधिपते वैकुण्ठपते श्रीराधापते
मधुराधिपते द्वारकाधिपते वैकुण्ठपते श्रीराधापते
मधुराधिपते द्वारकाधिपते वैकुण्ठपते श्रीराधापते
मधुराधिपते द्वारकाधिपते वैकुण्ठपते श्रीराधापते
नन्दनन्दन कृष्ण गोपाला मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर वाला।
कृष्ण गोपाला मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर वाला।
नंद नंदन कृष्ण गोपाला मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर वाला।
कृष्ण गोपाला मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर वाला।
मधुराधिपति द्वारकाधिपति वैकुंठपति श्रीराधपति।
मधुराधिपति द्वारकाधिपति वैकुंठपति श्रीराधपति।
देवकी नंदन हे घनश्यामा गोपी मनोहर मंगलधामा।
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 कालिय मर्दन हे नंदलाला
कालिय मर्दन हे नंदलाला।
कालिय मर्दन हे नंदलाला।
कालिय मर्दन हे नंदलाला।
नाचो नाचो रे भैया बांसुरी वाला मधुराधिपति द्वारकाधिपति वैकुंठपति श्रीराधपति।
मधुराधिपति द्वारकाधिपति वैकुंठपति श्रीराधपति।
सूरदास के प्रभु गिरिधारी राधा कृष्णा कुंज विहारी
सूरदास के प्रभु गिरधारी राधा कृष्णा कुंज विहारी
वसुदेव नंदन असुर निखंडन
वसुदेव नंदन असुर निखंडन
भव भयभंजन जगन्वंदना मधुराधिपते द्वारकाधिपते वैकुंठपते श्रीराधापते
मधुराधिपते द्वारकाधिपते वैकुंठपते श्रीराधापते
मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर नागर गोपी कृष्ण कन्हैया
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 अभी देना तुम तेरा दर्शन
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 मेरा कृष्ण कन्हैया मधुराधिपति मधुराधिपति वैकुंठपति श्रीराधापति
मधुराधिपते द्वारकाधिपते वैकुंठपते श्रीराधापते
श्रीराधापति श्रीराधापति
श्रीराधापते
श्रीराधापति श्रीराधापति
श्रीराधापते श्रीराधापते
बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय।
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 ओम नमः शिवाय। 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 ओम नमः शिवाय।
बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय।
बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय।
जूट जड़ा में गंगाधारी।
झूठ जटा में गंगाधारी।
जूट जड़ा में गंगाधारी।
झूठ जटा में गंगाधारी।
त्रिशूलधारी डमरू बजावे।
त्रिशूलधारी डमरू बजावे।
त्रिशूलधारी डमरू बजावे।
त्रिशूलधारी डमरू बजावे।
डम 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 डमरू बजे।
डम 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 डमरू बजे।
डम 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 डमरू बजे।
डम 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 डमरू बजे।
गूंज उठाओ नमः शिवाय।
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 बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम 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 नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय। 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 ओम नमः शिवाय।
बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय।
बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय।
जूट जड़ा में गंगाधारी।
झूठ
बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय। अमृतेश्वरी मंगलम प्रणमदा मुक्तिप्रदे मंगलम भुवनेश्वरी मंगलम सुकृतिना एकाश्रये अमृतेश्वरी मंगलम प्रणमदा मुक्तिप्रदे मंगलम भुवनेश्वरी मंगलम सुकृतिना एकाश्रये मंगलम हृदयेश्वरी मंगलम हृदिलसत्तेजोमयी मंगलम मृदुभाषिणी मंगलम विजयदा प्रेमाकृते मंगलम विजयदा प्रेमाकृते मंगलम विजयदा प्रेमाकृते मंगलम। जय बोलो सद्गुरु माता अमृतानंदमयी देवी की। Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.